Hello all and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about Mothman Prophecies. This is a topic I've been wanting to chat with for a while. So we are getting into it with the general conception of what made Mothman popular, what brought up this topic to begin with, and where the whole genre of this topic really outlines, because it's not just in Mothman, it's in other sightings that people are seeing, other aspirations that people are seeing, but mostly, I guess, in Mothman Prophecies, we would say a certain symbolism thing that multiple people witnessed before a horrible tragedy of many people dying. And all across the world, there's all the myths and legends, but we're going to focus on a little place called Pleasant View. Oh my gosh, I forgot the place. Ohio. And we are going to talk about the Silver Bridge incident that happened. It fell around in the 60s in the Ohio River. This story of this bridge falling in the community in this area was a very small community of people, but in the community they would talk about people seeing this aspiration. And these are very Christian, Bible-going people, not really into spooks and hauntings and the supernatural. They're more, grounded people in life. And a whole community just completely convinced about Mothman Prophecies and the whole Mothman legend, which catalyzed John Keel in 1975 to write a book, The Mothman Prophecies, where he outlined his ideology and his realizations about the topic and wanted to give a story into it, and necessarily and no one knew necessarily at that time why the bridge had fell in the 60s. There were supposable UFO sightings also connected with Mothman Prophecies. I only heard that in connection with the John Keel book, to be honest with you, but with everyone else, they weren't really outlining it with UAPs or UFOs. They were more outlining it as like a supernatural thing that you would see before a horrible tragedy would befall a bunch of people. Kind of like seeing what are they called? The fish that float up right before a tsunami, and they would, say, oh, if you see these fish, a tsunami's coming.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, it's a specific breed of fish in Japan.
Yeah, I heard about that too. I just don't know the name, but I heard of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And they used to think that fish was actually aspiration like Mothman and like these other stories, and that it was a sign of death. It was a symbolism of something, of a great tragedy to be fallen, which they actually did symbolize. They have been known to be seen, especially when tsunamis are coming in the very deep sea. So maybe they feel vibrations, maybe they feel that some sort of difference, and it causes them to rise up, you know what I mean?
Pressure change.
Right, pressure changes, stuff like that. So also in the area of Pleasant View, I wanted to go over, this is Appalachian culture. This is like the Appalachian Mountains of all the stories of skinwalkers and what were...
By the way, it was Point Pleasant, Virginia.
Virginia. Okay, well.
Oh, on East
I had to
Coast.
find my notes. I had to find all my
but it's
notes.
on the Ohio River, so I thought, Ohio River.
It runs all the way up and down.
I noticed. All right, I got that part wrong. Fair enough. I'm sorry. We're also going into the culture of the land and necessarily talking about how the French and Indian War happened in that area. Settlers, the colonies of the area were natural Scottish, Irish descendants. And there was a lot of stories within those communities of seeing aspirations or like, you know what I mean, weird things that they would see in the woods and stuff. And a lot of stuff back in the day has to be taken with a grain of sand, because everything that happened to them was like, oh my god, it was the end of the world. You know what I mean? They would have the eclipse, and they literally thought it was. You know what I mean? So
I mean, in context, let's think about it for a second. Let's put our minds in one of the mindsets of one of these Native American people about Mothman and stuff. Okay.
about Mothman, right?
Right,
Yeah.
like about Mothman. Like, if you were a Native American young man or young woman, and you're just walking down the damn trail of the woods, you know what I'm saying, and you're just doing your thing, you know, you're hunting your deer, you're picking your berries, your mushrooms, or whatever it is you're doing, and then all of a sudden you just see a big old creature. And maybe it's dusk, maybe it's nighttime, or whatever, you know, low light conditions. You're not going to see very well in low light conditions, okay? So you see this big thing, whatever it might be. It could have been a vulture for all we knew. You know what I'm saying? That just flew up on the freaking branch and just spread its wings just big enough to look like, you know, the span of a man's arms. And, you know, now the red eyes, maybe the light was just hitting their eyes just right. But if I was that person, I'd be like, no, and get the like, and that's the mindset of these people. But in our time of looking back into these stories, you know, we have, like Raven said, we have to look at it under the lens of a grain of salt. Like,
in the water, who knows?
you know what I'm saying? But ancient people then,
Coca-Cola around that time. I'm just
Yep.
saying.
you know, but you also got to think too, like ancient cultures and stuff and people, especially since we're talking about the Appalachian Mountain Range, which I grew up around that area. I know a lot about the folklore and history about that. We had an episode previously, check out on the channel, for the Clarksville ghost hunting ones. We talk a little bit about the Appalachian Mountain and all that kind of stuff. Mothman touches up in there. But yeah, all that area is all Celtic and Scottish, Irish, and so stories, folklore, traditions passed on from generation to generation and generation and generation. Same with the Native Americans, generation after generation after generation. So the variance of stories that we have on these accounts, which spans even before the 60s.
Right.
Like I did a little bit of research, and I actually have a source pulled up right now called the Mothman.fandom.com if you guys want to check it out. It chronologically documents the sightings and events, names, locations, and dates. The earliest dating is 1800s in the 19th century, but this is before they even called it the Mothman. So it was just a cryptid creature, something of unknown origin that they could not identify. But the stories go back to the 19th century. So,
I kind of feel like,
and that's recorded. Like, that's not even going on folklore stories.
You are lagging
So,
just
go ahead, Derek.
a little bit, and if it continues, I'm going to ask you to go out. How's your battery at, dude?
Let me check.
Okay.
57.
All right, yeah. If it continues, I'm gonna let you know, and maybe you might want to take this outside because we're gonna do a 420 smoke in a minute here anyway. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just letting you know that the lag.
No, I know. Like I said, it's holding up now. Just
Okay. Fair enough.
with not that it really connects super well, but like I think it's weird that a lot of UFO sightings are usually either near nuclear installations or you know, they seem to just come around when they think we're doing something really dangerous and they want to see what's happening. You know, so it doesn't really even shake me the fact that, like, you know, Mothman was seen before this tragedy or whatever, because like that seems to be all they really are interested. They seem to all be like benevolent visits, except
Did you ever notice the hydrogen power as well? Anytime we fucked with hydrogen power, there are UFO sightings in those areas as well, with the dams and all the hydrogen power as well. Like anytime we had significant advancements in our techniques, that's when we would get like UAP sightings, UFO sightings, all that shit would start going down.
They're very interested in what we're doing and what energy we're using and stuff like that. So the one thing that's weird about it is like the only like malevolent visit we've basically had was that mall sighting. And that shit was straight up horrifying, but they still want to act like it didn't happen or whatever. But are you going to call literally thousands of people crazy? So, and they were making people sign paperwork and shit like that on the scene. So, like, all of it looks dirty as hell.
They made people sign NAPs on the scene.
And that's what those are reports that came out of that. Yes, they were like a literally like a whole state worth of law enforcement showed up, and they got
So that
they're
the
separating
Miami
people
Sorry,
and getting their
incident,
statements.
NDAs. Sorry.
so the Miami
Yeah.
incident, as far as since we're on the topic of cryptids, and obviously UFOs falls under that fucking category.
Well,
When it
even
comes,
John Keeley, might I add before I outline that John Keeley had the UFO experience outlined with Mothman Prophecies as well. This all is intertwined.
it's all interconnected.
Yeah,
I was going to say,
exactly,
as far
in
as
some
the
way.
Miami incident, because I kept up with that not because of the news, because I didn't actually hear it on the news, because they kept it very localized. I actually heard about that because of two YouTubers. One is called Mindseed TV. Check him out. Subscribe to him. He's an awesome guy about cryptids and fucking UFOs and all that kind of stuff. And then the other one is Yasko. He went to the mall and actually did investigation after the event and talked to eyewitness people, including the shop owners, including those that were there on the day. He went to the monument of where they supposedly saw the figure that was walking, and there is a camera that sits on top of that, but no one has released that footage.
Damn.
Well, I mean that was
So-
literally
somewhere, you know.
So
we're
if we're
the
gonna
ones
talk
that get the
about that, the same
footage,
thing
and
like
we're
with
like,
the
what do we
Mothman,
do
though,
with it?
but the same thing like with the Mothman, same thing like with UFOs, and now my
Just
personal
think about
one.
it though. If anyone did get their hands on that footage, I mean, think about
Who's to
like
say?
if people even put it out, like
Who's
how
to
many
Would you
people
believe it?
all of
would you
these
believe
cryptids-
it? Would you
Uh-huh.
discredit it? Like, and not only that, how fast would it get shut down? Like, is
Right.
it even going to be worth trying to throw your for it? You know,
Right.
yeah, there's a
But
lot.
who's to say, since we did bring up the UFO topic, which is reversing back to our other episode of the UFO Bob Lazar story, in case anybody wants to check that episode out too. It's also on our playlist. But to go back on that, like, who's to say that all these cryptids that we're seeing, Sasquatch, El Chupacabra, Mothman, Goatman, any of these other ones that you're thinking, Skinwalkers, like, you know, any of these things that we cannot explain, who's to say that all of this is not what we call extraterrestrial? An extraterrestrial, by definition, is something that is not natural of this world.
Okay, I gotta ask, because we didn't outline this in the last video, and it is one of those topics that I genuinely wanted to talk about, but it's like with the subject with the Mayans and like aliens building the pyramids and stuff. Why was that discredited?
That's always been my biggest question.
No,
Not
but it was discredited recently, and when I went to go look for the information of why it was discredited, it was incredibly hard to come by.
That's the argument.
Well, I discredit their discredit by saying,
Exactly.
how in the and this is where I actually need to use the cussing of language, but how in the actual population of Egypt at the time, which wasn't that many, to build 7 perfectly cut, perfectly shaped stones that weigh more than 2 freaking semis. Please explain to me how they were able to do that with limited technology and not a lot of muscle power to get those things in position.
Then you get into the question of, like, you know, so either the giants of the Old Testament were real, or some form of technology was helping out, because they've tried, every single Egyptologist has tried to come up with a theory with the help of engineers and mathematicians about how they could possibly have built these pyramids. And none of them, when tried, actually worked.
And it's very
So
interesting as well, dude, because there's so many pyramids around the world. It's not just Egypt. You go to South America, there's pyramids and
South
Mayans,
America,
a lot of it.
Mexico.
yeah,
And so it's like then when you do like the study of where the EMFs, the shall I say, aurora borealis, the acupuncture points for the Earth, they're all centered on a pyramid. Every single one, because it has to come back down into the earth for it to then come back out. So that moment of it
yeah.
coming back in and or going back out, there's a pyramid there. It's an acupuncture for the earth, essentially. It's just like when you get acupuncture, where do they put them? Very specific points. It's literally that in my head.
I mean, like I
I think
said,
it was
though,
more discredited towards the fact of how, like, necessarily how the stone was built, because I think a lot of them believe they were built kind of like the pyramid structures. But it was like physically impossible to move the columns the way that they moved
Yeah.
them and stuff
that's
like that.
exactly what I was saying.
But
That's why I
now,
discredit that.
I feel like it was discredited because they found out, I guess it was carved in stone as it was standing. Like they were mountains that they carved into
They
the
carved,
pyramids.
outward. How do I like?
Or
Yeah,
outward, inward. They carved it into the pyramid that it was. It's not necessarily that like they moved stones and those
this is what my
stones
philosopher says. Yeah, when
became
you're
Here's the
molding
problem with that theory,
something,
structure.
though. Here's the problem with that theory,
you
though.
mold it, and then you take stuff away. You take stuff away rather than like completely putting something there. It's like different.
So you're saying your idea is they sculpted the pyramid instead of moving blocks.
Pretty
Right.
much.
Yeah, that's
That
what.
was what they
Here,
was trying to say was discredited. One
here's
person said the reason why they discredited it wasn't necessarily like moving blocks, but it's like they found these, big boulders,
mound.
basic
Yeah.
mounds, big, and decided to carve their temples out of these huge mounds.
Here's the problem with that theory, though. All of their buildings in that area of the Middle East are all carved, and all of them had to be made by hand. And a
Yeah.
lot of those stones had to be moved.
Yeah, well,
There are no natural mountains unless you get way the hell out in the Middle East. You might run across them, but the mountains in Egypt, you have to really go out there to find them. And where Egypt is open land.
yeah, the type of stone that it's made out of, those stones don't exist within the location. You have to bring those stones
Exactly.
from one location to there, and then
There's your other hole in that theory too.
yeah, it's like
It all
sandstone.
sounds great, and it would sound believable if only the geography matched up with the theory.
It's interesting, yeah,
Out of
man.
curiosity, I just want to see what Google says about it because I forgot what Google said about it last time I typed this in. I know I typed this in before, but let me just see real quick. Like,
Let me see what my battery is.
I want to get back into the UFOs
Okay,
because
I'm
even with the
gonna hop off here
Egyptians,
for a second, go outside, and have a 420 moment with you guys.
okay,
okay.
yeah, definitely want to get back into the UFOs because that's something that's still even in the architecture, shall I say, of the pyramids themselves. Like,
Well, we are keeping more into like the aspect of like aspirations that we see during big, traumatic events.
mm-hmm.
But
Hold on 1 second,
I'm just saying UFO conspiracies. I don't mind gracing on it, but like we should have kept it with the other episode.
I feel you. We're
Let's see.
Mothman in that episode. Yeah, okay. Excuse me.
Interesting.
What does it say?
Well, it's I guess it was ancient aliens, and it was saying it's debunked. Let's see what it says. Hold on. Ooh, there's a whole video on it.
Am I allowed to smoke right now, out of
Ancient-
curiosity?
Yeah, totally allowed to smoke as long as it's
Okay.
allowed in your state. The history aliens show ancient aliens frequently misleads viewers due to dishonest or outright fraudulent use of historical or archaeological evidence. Academic experiments are also used to lead authority to authorize ridiculous claims. John Megan, as she provides specific examples of these techniques using season 12, episode 16 as her case study. If you actually want to learn about the actual experts, check out this. Okay, so I'm showing all their information. This channel is Digital Harumbari or whatever. I can't say that. I'm horrible. Hammurabi. If you guys want to check it out, you can. I am not going to play their episode on my channel, so I'm just showing what Google doesn't outline any reason. Like, I would literally type in, why was it discredited that aliens were involved with the Mayans, and nothing came up except for like aliens involved more with dinosaur extinction. Which I'm like, really? That's what comes up?
That sounds like an AI generated answer.
That sounds more like, I'm sorry, I believe that dinosaurs died because our world was changing and ever evolving, and around that time the whole world split into its own continents and started drifting apart, and the Pangea effect happened. Cheers.
Cheers.
And another extinction effect happened when the asteroid hit and smashed into the and caused a huge issue with that area.
You know, they just started ringing the bell about and trust me, they've been doing it for almost 80 years, but scientists are now ringing it really loud about the Cascadia subduction zone fault.
With the volcanoes?
Yeah.
I've heard that
no,
come
it's
up
the one.
in a lot of YouTube videos too.
It's one of the largest fault lines. It's off the coast of Portland on the west coast. But it is also, it has the most potential energy built up of any fault line on Earth. So the thing about the Cascadia subduction zone fault line is when that one goes, you're talking a megathrust earthquake.
Okay.
And the fact, this is something we've never experienced in the whole human civilization.
In modern world, yeah.
Yeah. So a megathrust earthquake that is right off the coast, like, and these scientists aren't playing with these numbers when they say there could be a 1,000-foot mega tsunami off the whole coast of Oregon and like all those states. Like, it would wipe out everything for like 5 to 10 miles inland. Like, they have started building. They've started building the schools.
What does the word fault line mean? Because I want to be a little ignorant on the thought process. You know,
fault line is a part. It's a plate tectonics. So a fault line is where you have two plates. One is moving under the other.
Boom. That makes sense. And
So think of the whole world as a big puzzle piece. In certain areas,
analogy.
Right.
As soon as you went like this, I comprehended it.
Certain areas are submersion zones. In certain areas, they're pushing against each other, which causes mountain range. And other ranges, it's more what is it called? Subductive. Where it's both pushing at a downward angle, and different parts of the puzzles push at different angles.
Yeah.
So this is what he's talking about with Portland. There's a certain...
Yeah, it's so big and so powerful.
There's a fault line, essentially, that's there. It's at this point of ready to recoil, shall I say, and be like, whoa, 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 and just send energy.
So this is a normal earthquake. When two plates are right up... This is how the San Andreas fault is. Two plates right up against each other, and they're grinding against each other. One's moving forward while one's staying. That's a normal earthquake.
Okay.
Those kind of earthquakes are enough to cause horrifying earthquakes.
Yeah.
Just those.
Mm.
A subduction zone earthquake is when one plate is going underneath of the other plate, and see, all that energy is building up in this plate.
Like,
and once it goes,
it's just gonna go.
Boom. Once it goes, yeah. So
Holy shit. They're
Also,
going to
a
be
gonna be
lot
multiple
of
bad.
times
thousands.
those are in the ocean, and that they cause tsunamis because of
Yeah.
the shift of ground. All of a sudden, just go like that
Yeah,
will
right.
cause a shift in the water, which will cause
Yeah.
the huge tsunami to form, and that's why you get constant tsunamis hitting like Kenya or Indonesia or those
But
areas because there's
it's not going
subduction
to be a
zones
regular
there.
tsunami. It's
No.
it's a it's a mega tsunami, and it's pointed directly at the state of Oregon,
Holy shit. And
or
see
the whole West Coast.
how
If
far
you're on a
off.
beach anywhere
Yeah,
in the West
the
Coast
whole
when
West
this
Coast
happens,
is.
Go underwater. Like the whole joke of the West Coast, like becoming Atlantis, is not a joke anymore. Like
Right.
It
it's going to
hasn't.
become the new
We've known
Atlantis.
forever it wasn't a joke,
Which
but we
I
never
guess
really
we're
took it
still talking about
seriously on the
cryptids.
West Coast. People like know it's literally my ex-husband was like, "Oh, I'll just stay here in California," because he refuses to leave Cali, and I was like, "You're right there, dude. You're on the precipice of this." Like San Diego's gone. I don't care what anyone says. San Diego's gone.
Hopefully Nevada like holds some water in yeah.
Nevada will be the new California, bro.
well, that's
Basically.
exactly actually what would happen. If you're
Yeah.
talking about something like 9 or 10.0 on the Richter scale, like the
Even
high
above
desert in
that, which we've never
California would
seen in
literally become
humankind,
beachfront
yeah.
property.
Like we
Mhm.
never even seen anything above a 10. So
Yeah.
just like 10 is like an F5 tornado. It's basically there's nothing left.
Well, and the Richter scale is different than the Fujita scale because the difference between a 1.0 on the Richter scale and a 2.0 is levels of magnitude different. You're talking about the difference is huge just from
Right.
1.0 to 2.0. You know, so a 10, and the largest one we ever had was that one in Los Angeles. You remember that one when you were a kid where it, like
Yeah.
the whole city got cut in half?
Yeah.
So, but the funny part is Oregon has already started building at all of their schools these tsunami shelters on stilts. Okay, so every high school has them now, and it's just this building you run to, and it's really high up on stilts and everything. Those shelters are not even built for what is coming from the Cascadia
That's what I was
subduction
gonna
zone.
say. Work.
You have to go
You're
under
proceed to getting hit by a wave.
Yeah, you gotta go underground.
I mean, no, you'll. That's a bad idea too.
Well, even
You're
6
gonna
months of being
drown.
underground, you don't think
Bro.
it'll recede
Have
back
we
into the
not
ocean?
seen the movie 2012 when Los Angeles
I
got
know the
dead?
scene.
They
I'm
were
just saying,
perfectly fine in the air.
Yeah.
you
Yeah, that's your choice. Get on a plane or just get on a surfboard and wait.
Yeah.
oh my god.
Yeah,
That
grab
Get on
energy
something
coming
that
boardwalks,
towards
might be
you.
even
floats.
better. You can just about 400 or 500 feet and just sit there and watch the whole shit unfold.
Everyone's got surfboards. That's what they be on. Everyone just
You know
grab a
how
How did we
surfboard.
get on this
fast?
topic and we're on cryptid topics? Like,
Listen, I know because we're all ADD. We go all over the fucking place, man. We're bad. Wee.
You should
ADHD
just
at
have
its finest.
you just have an episode called ADHD and not give it.
Combos. Yeah.
That'll be the topic, and we'll just have no rails on this train whatsoever.
there is
Let
no
it
No,
flow.
if we went on a topic like that, oh man, it would just.
we already did.
I mean, we kind of are right now. I'm not gonna lie, but it
We're just gonna have to
happens.
rename this
We'll
episode
settle
ADD.
back. No,
Yeah.
settle. We can settle back. Like,
The
for
train can
instance,
catch the rails again.
Listen, no, we could talk about the movie that was made in 2002 by director Mark Pellington. Also, it was actor and actress Richard Gere and Deborah Messing in it.
Yep, hide your gerbils.
I hate your gerbils. I love Richard Gere. He gets a lot of bad flack. I think he's done some seriously intense, but he seems like a very mysterious, intense kind of Pisces guy or something.
I just don't think he
energy.
cares for the whole like being famous part of it.
What?
You know what I mean?
Richard Gere?
Well, no, I mean he is famous. He became famous, but he's just
He worked hard.
he
was
did.
in a
I mean,
lot
but
he was in a lot of romance movies. He was in a lot of stuff.
There's gonna be a lot.
after
There's gonna be a lot
after
of
the 90s, though, he kind of
this
just
podcast. I swear.
Well, you have to understand that Richard Gere already had that kind of more mature looking kind of look to him. Even in his 30s, he looked more, he had that more like he had a very mature face. And I feel like once he hit his 50s, that mature face, like maybe he didn't get as many parts. Maybe people didn't want him as much, or he wanted to do more romantic family man roles. I would say
they don't let you get old in Hollywood, man.
no, they don't. There was a movie he did where, oh God, what was it called? It's gonna kill me. Hold on, I might have to figure out this name of this movie real quick before I refer it. But well, I'm gonna have to figure out. But in the movie, he was married to this woman, and this woman cheats on him with another man, but she wants to stay in her marriage because he's like a good guy or something. And he finds out about the affair and murders the guy. And in the end, they get away with it, supposedly, but it was like really fucking twisted and intense.
Are you talking about Double Jeopardy?
No, what is it? Hold on, I gotta find it.
Did they have a happy ending?
No, there's a movie that my mom loves. You basically described it. I think it's called Double Jeopardy.
Let me see. Unfaithful.
Unfaithful, okay.
It was that also came out in 2002. Hi, he did this the same year as Mothman Prophecies. That's funny. I didn't know that.
Because I mean, he worked hardcore ever since like Pretty Woman blew up, and he didn't stop making movies until like, you know, a couple decades later. But he really hasn't really popped up on the radar at all. You're right.
But I do think that he had a very mature face, and that once he hit a certain age, he started looking kind of like he was in his 50s when he was in his 40s a little bit, you know what I mean? Like it was, and he also didn't give in to plastic surgery, which I really appreciated the doing, because so many people destroyed their looks, in my opinion, with plastic surgery. It's unfortunate that the movie industry really prized towards Botox and prized towards people doing this crap, but I'm not gonna pump Botox in my body to try to make myself look younger. I'm good.
No.
I'm gonna age with vanity and grace.
I was just gonna say, age with grace, girl. Age with grace. Age like a fine wine. Age like a fine wine.
I'm gonna age like a fine wine, but I'm gonna cuss about it the whole way. I mean,
men age like a good whiskey, and women age like a fine wine.
Where the that out of? I am aging like milk left in the sun.
It's getting sour more and more.
You're not turning into milk, you're turning into fucking sour cream at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of going back to the movie, let's just say it is very Hollywood. There was a thing in the movie that goes over why the bridge fell. Was apparently there was an issue with the dam and the power plant, and they released too much of a turn of water, which was the straw that broke the camel's back to cause the bridge to collapse. And that was the explanation in the movie. But
I was gonna say in real life there really wasn't no explanation. The bridge just gave way. Because they did a full out investigation.
They did another analogy on it. It was the way that architecturally it was built. I mean, it was a young bridge, but the way that it was built, they did find discrepancies in the kind of build that it was made under, and they made changes and advancements to how bridges were built since then. So it was already changed. The issue on it was already changed with bridge building, so they didn't see an issue with needing to go into a further investigation. The only reason why it even got as much flack as it did was a whole community of people freaking the up seeing this aspiration, and so many people in the community did, because at the time that this bridge fell, it was very a lot of traffic was on the bridge. It was, a full bridge when it fell. I do believe it was, I don't know if it was around Christmas time. In the movie it displays it's around Christmas time with Christmas presents in the water and stuff. Like, they had to give it the whole Hollywood spiel about it. But I would suggest that if you have not seen this movie, go check it out, Mothman Prophecies, 2002. Or you can also check out John Keel's 1975 book, The Mothman Prophecies, which I really do think is quite interesting, his intake on the UFO aspect that we were going over previously in this episode about. But I am going to have to cut it off for what it's worth, because this episode is getting to that margin, and we need to end the lovely ADHD talks for today. You know?
But if that is a sub-series that you guys would like to see on YouTube, then let us know. She's like, no.
If
you want us to go off the rails a little and have an ADD, let us know.
Go all over the place.
No. Listen, we'll all get put in concentration camps, okay? Like,
yeah, what the heck?
Like, they don't think ADHD people can live life anymore, all right? Like, let's just be honest. I don't want to be
Anything
labeled.
ADHD people are
I'm not going to wear a that says ADHD right now, okay?
Part ADHD.
Part ADHD.
But on one of my vests that says, hello, I have ADHD. I'm not kidding, I have that. I'll take it on one day.
Just take it off now, dude. Good. Rip it off now, man. Oh, I swear.
Burn it off!
Burn it off!
They're gonna come for you!
They're gonna come for you!
Yeah, I'm already uniformed.
I'm
All
gonna
you
have
gotta do
to
is
cut
just send
this
me there,
whole
man.
scene out, because I don't know if I could put it in the video. I'm gonna have to sit here and be like, are we gonna leave this
No,
in?
this is just our bloopers.
This episode is going to be nothing but breaking glass. Like,
This episode is sponsored by Vivek.
I'm dead. Oh, lose your mind and find your soul. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you for dropping by. If you like what you've been seeing, smash that subscribe, hit that like right in the freaking face, and we'll be seeing you later. Bye.
Laters.
I know you told your friend you're not okay, and tell me